thank you all very much. It is incredibly humbling, and I'm truly blessed to be invited here by my very good friend and colleague, Mr. Curtis Baker, but also more importantly to see so many of my friends and colleagues here. I hope I don't disappoint you this morning. But the one thing I would add is that what you're going to see here regarding the work along the Ohio Erie Canalway, the Summit County Trail Plan, the Akron Commons work at Summit Lake, you all had a hand in that in some way. It really takes, all of us to do this work. And especially our friends, our local governments, Ohio Department of Transportation. Trust me, I know how much I bug you guys on a regular basis. But you are always very willing to ask, how might we do better? How might we create a more equitable society when it comes to transportation? Because not everybody actually owns a car. How might we create these accessible, equitable, welcoming parks, trails, and public spaces? Because now more than ever, we need that in our society. And as I will reference here a little bit later in the presentation, we really learned that coming out of COVID. Because when the world shut down, where did everybody go? You couldn't go to the malls, you couldn't go to the movies, you couldn't go to plays. People went to parks, trails, and public spaces. And we believe very strongly that parks, trails, and public spaces are truly essential services. They are not non-essential services. So if I get a little preachy up here at times, as many of you folks know, my great-grandfather was a Baptist minister. So I've got a capital bucket. We will not be passing an offering plate. As many of you folks already support our organization, but I want to apologize in advance. So the topic here today is to just give you a quick update on the Ohio Erie Canalway, the Towpath Trail, connector trails, as well as our Akron Civic Commons project. And I've had the honor and privilege of working on this legacy project for over 30 years. I was the first employee hired by the Ohio Erie Canalway Coalition, and this has been my entire career. It's been an incredible honor and blessing to be able to work on this legacy project. It's been an honor and blessing to work with many of you all. And really fulfill the legacy of Congressman Ralph Regula and Congressman John Cyberman. Because they were the forefathers and really the visionaries over 30 years ago, actually closer to 60 years ago, because it was in the 1960s, to save the Ohio Erie Canal. And as you can see here from these slides, what we're really trying to do is just duplicate some small way the impact that the Ohio Erie Canal originally had. Which many folks know very well, it was a transportation corridor. It literally catapulted Ohio to the third most populous state in the nation. And when it went out of business, kind of lingered. But then in the 1960s, people like Congressman Ralph Regula had this idea, why don't we save it? Why don't we repurpose it? We can use it for transportation, we can use it for economic development, but in a different format. And I would tell you early on in my career, when I started in 1994, I had a lot of doors slammed in my face. A lot of people said, why would you want to save a dirty old stinky canal? Well, isn't that ironic how now 30 years later, that dirty old stinky canal is generating about $408 million in economic impact on an annual basis. It is supporting 3,200 jobs on an annual basis. It's generating $34 million in tax revenue. Pretty good for a tree hugger project, right? And isn't it interesting too that we need all of your services, engineers, designs, services. You have helped make this project possible. And I know it's part of your jobs, but companies, I'm going to call out some folks, I may miss some folks, I apologize, but environmental design group, city architecture, GPD, DLC, Callis, Cadence, Envision, Burgess and Knight, and many more, OHM. This is more than this is a job for you guys. This is a passion. You are changing people's lives. And I truly believe that, and that's the impact and opportunity that we have. And so, in 1996, Congress said they want to go out there and build trails, preserve historic buildings, conserve natural areas. But there's two catches. One, we're not going to give you all the money, and two, you don't have any authorities. So good luck. And isn't it interesting how, now 25 plus years later now, 90 miles of the Ohio Erie Canal Towpath Trail are completed. We can go outside this door here, we go down the valley, we can hop on connected trails, and we can go 45 miles north to Cleveland, 45 miles south to Zorro. And we're not done yet. We still got to build about another 10 miles down there. Our friends down there at ODOT District 11 are also very helpful. So I really appreciate our friends at ODOT because you're playing a huge role in this success. But that's where it comes down to you all. We need everybody. Our consultant organizations, our park agencies, units of government, nonprofits, corporations, foundations. I used to kind of joke that if you have a pulse in Northeast Ohio, we want to talk to you. Because we believe everybody has a stake in what we're doing. And I truly believe that. Because this is truly a grassroots-driven project. That's our mission statement there. To promote the conservation, development, interpretation of natural, historical, recreational resources. We're also not bound necessarily to just stop at New Philadelphia. You see there on our mission statement, we could go further south, but we've got enough work right ahead of us right now, focusing on the trail. And as many folks are very well aware, we have multiple linkages with the Ohio Erie Canalway and the Towpath Trail. So you have a 101-mile multi-use recreational trail for bicycling and hiking. We also have a 110-mile scenic byway, which is a more scenic route, as opposed to going down Interstate 77, to stop in small towns. And then you see the Colorado Scenic Railroad and many, many national parks. We are truly blessed here in Northeast Ohio to have all of these assets. We have corporations tell us all the time, because they use our material to help recruit doctors, engineers, and lawyers to come and live in Northeast Ohio. Because when people move to other places across the country, or Illinois or North Carolina, they come back and they say, we got a national park, we have all these metro parks, we have state parks, we have all these resources that are all free and accessible here to our businesses and our residents. Just a couple of our highlights from our organization. We really try to do a wide variety of activities, many of which you all support and participate in. Everything from running events, canoeing events, fishing derbies, canal cleanups. We really try to engage people in many different ways. And if you want to ride 100 miles, if you want to ride 8 miles. Next Saturday we have an event called Bike and Brew. And there's a key difference here. You bicycle and then you brew. You don't do it the other way around. Some people just come for the brew, actually. But we really try to connect people to the resource, because that's the way we can remain relevant. And for many kids, they never fish along the Erie Canal. They've never seen the turtle. They've never seen the blue heron. Or some people are maybe trying to lose weight, and they start out riding our Congressman Reagan Memorial Ride, which is an 8 and 16 32-mile event, and the next thing they know, they're riding a century ride. And so my invitation to you all, if you've not had an opportunity to participate in our events and programs, I invite you to join us. We really try to make it accessible to everyone. But really one of the core values of our organization is stewardship, and how might we help to take care of this wonderful resource, because we have many, many great partners at the local government level, but quite frankly, they're underfunded. They don't have enough resources. And so that's where you all come in, and many of our volunteers. So we do at least 8 different canal cleanups all along the Ohio Erie Canal Towpath Trail, removing literally tons of litter and hundreds of tires. We have great partners who help us adopt sections of the trail, many of which are in this room today. We're so grateful to you for that, because again, it's an extra boost to give extra support to help stewarding this great resource. And I know, look at the smiles on those faces. Now, it's also a combination of team building. It gives people a chance to get outside, spend time with their coworkers, but you're also doing good right here in the community. And we're so grateful to you for that. We also operate a completely free bicycle share, because one of our core values is equity in public spaces, because not everybody necessarily has the money to purchase a bicycle or rent a bicycle. So we operate in partnership with YMCAs and libraries throughout Civic County a completely free bicycle share. So all you need to do is show your driver's license or a credit card, and then we hold that. And anybody can borrow a bicycle for any 2 hours, any day of the week from basically May until November, actually. And we've had over, as you see, over 1,000 users of that system since it was debuted in 2016. Talking about stewardship, one of our core beliefs as well is how might we engage our youth. And so we developed a program 4 years ago now called our Summit Lake Ambassadors. And these are young people primarily from the Summit Lake neighborhood who are hired during the summertime for summer jobs, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 9 until noon. And they basically help steward Summit Lake Park. Some of the tasks that they work on include picking up litter, spreading mulch, painting tables, building benches. And one of the things we're really proud of is many of these youth are from the Summit Lake neighborhood. So we target specifically black and brown youth in disinvested communities like Summit Lake, because for many of these kids, this is their first job. And so we also want to give them an opportunity to make money. We have 4 rules in our Summit Lake Ambassador program. 1, you show up on time all the time. You have a positive attitude all the time. And you follow directions all the time. And the 4th one is have fun. I'm really proud of this program because we have an 85% return rate of participation. And the other thing you'll notice in the slide back here is you see the youth, but you also see a lot of adults there, a lot of team leaders. We also are very intentional that the team leaders also look like the youth. So there's a lot of black and brown team leaders there as well, who are also from the neighborhood. And they are just doing fantastic work. They're very visible. We put those yellow vests on there specifically because we want them to be noticed. They've had trail users stop by and say thank you. And we've told these ambassadors, people are going to express their gratitude to you, and please feel free to talk about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so what started out as just as a stewardship program, maybe as a summer employment program, now also builds pride. Because this is their neighborhood. This is their park. And it really speaks to equity in public spaces. We also, as you folks are pretty well aware, we published a complete guide to the Towpath Trail, the Towpath Companion. If you don't have a copy of that, please see me. I'll make sure we get you a copy. But in addition to focusing on the Ohio Erie Canalway, the Towpath Trail, from Cleveland all the way down to New Philadelphia and Tuscarawas County, we also are focusing on connected trails in partnership with our county agencies and all of our municipalities here in Summit County as well. So think of it as like a tree. So the Ohio Erie Canal Towpath Trail is the trunk of the tree, and then now we need to work on the branches of the tree. And that's where you all come in as key partners. And so we're incredibly proud that since we started this program over, probably now going on almost 20 plus years ago, really through the incredible leadership and support of Summit Metro Parks and Summit County government, over 64 miles of connected trails have been developed. There are 127 miles in planning, many of which are in many of your communities. Green, Niagara Falls, Bath, Stowe, and Hudson. We've actually awarded over $1.5 million in grants. That's leveraged $25 billion of private, local, state, and federal investment. And to me, that's the most important aspect here. A little bit of county money leverages just a ton of private, local, state, and federal investment. And so for every $1 of county investment, we're leveraging $16 bringing to the table. And so again, I guess that deserves a special round of applause to Summit County government and your Summit Metro Parks and all of our partners here in Summit County. Congratulations. One example of that connected trail, in addition to the Freedom Trail that Summit Metro Parks is working on, Rubber City Heritage Trail. This is a regional connected trail that actually can use, it's a rail line that actually used to connect all the tire companies. General, Goodrich, Firestone, and Goodyear. And the city of Akron actually owns this rail line, and a couple of our consulting firms here today are working on that. And it's a 6-mile connected trail. It will connect all the neighborhoods of Goodyear Heights, downtown Akron, Firestone Park, and Summit Lake. It's going to be a neighborhood connected trail. It's not designed with any parking lots. It's designed for the neighborhood residents so they can walk to the trail. However, but once that trail connects down to the Ohio Erie Canal Towpath Trail down at Summit Lake, then the Ohio Erie Canal Towpath Trail users will now be able to explore the inner city of Akron. And so it's a really important connected trail, and we're really excited about seeing that project move forward. And here's a map of it. One of the challenges right now where the construction is primarily, we're actually working on the eastern side of the Rubber City Heritage Trail. One of the challenges that we are so grateful for to have that partnership with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and Chad and his entire team have been really great leaders in this. I really appreciate that. Is while you're doing the construction of the inner belt and then the interstate, you've taken into account the route of the Rubber City Heritage Trail. So we're very grateful to you for that. I know we had many meetings to talk about that, but you're incorporating that, so thank you. And like I said previously, our work is now more important than ever. I kind of wish, to be honest with you, we would have taken a global pandemic to make us realize that. But because of the pandemic, I think people really understand the importance of parks, trails, and public spaces. And so one of the main features of the work that we're doing right now many of you folks are familiar, is an initiative called Reimagining Civic. This project started about 7 years ago, funded primarily by the national funders you see there at the bottom of the screen, the JPB Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, Knight Foundation, William Penn, and one with the JR Foundation. And what these national funders have learned that through the research is that even though we've made great progress in our society regarding integration and socioeconomic mixing, our communities are still now more segregated now more than ever, unfortunately. We don't spend enough time with people who look differently than us. And so think about that. Or sometimes our churches, where we shop, how we socialize, our parks, and other spaces. And so what these national funders challenge us is, how might we change that? How might we create these accessible, equitable, and welcoming parks, trails, and open spaces where everybody feels welcome to come together, regardless of their age, their gender, income, education, race, and experience. And so in Akron, we were invited and actually competed against cities all across the country to submit a proposal. And Akron was initially selected along with Detroit, Chicago, Memphis, and Philadelphia. And so what's the common denominator amongst all those other cities? They're all major metropolitan areas. Akron was the only mid-sized city selected. And that's pretty impressive. And so the project that we focused on was the Ohio Erie Canal Trail. Because what we learned is that to the north there, where the Civic Gateway in the downtown area is, that Ohio Erie Canal Trail users would come down from Cuyahoga Valley National Park, from Summit Metro Parks, and stop right at the State Route 59 bridge, and turn around and go back north. And we asked them, why did you do this? Well, it's kind of questionable going to downtown, it's kind of confusing, and don't necessarily feel comfortable. Not sure where I am. In the southern area, we talked with the Ohio Erie Canal Trail users and had a similar response. They would literally come up to the southern part of Summit Lake and stop and turn right back around and go back down to Summit Metro Parks and down to Stark Parks. When we asked the question why, the answer was, well, I've heard kind of it's a sketchy neighborhood. Nothing's bad happened to me, but I don't feel comfortable going to that neighborhood. And then in the middle area, which is Ohio Erie Canal Park, which is a very diverse neighborhood from a housing perspective, because you have complete home ownership, partially subsidized, fully subsidized housing, and it's all intermixed. We asked the folks who lived in the neighborhood, how do you feel about having the Towpath trail users come to your neighborhood? They said, we feel like we have 2.5 million people going through our backyard. And then when we asked the Towpath trail users, they said, we feel like we're invading their privacy going through their backyard. And so we asked ourselves, how might we change this? And so we tested a whole lot of ideas. The national funders had 4 values, and they still do have 4 values that guide our work. The first one is relationship building, or they refer to as civic engagement. They didn't care what I thought, they didn't care what the elected officials thought, they didn't care what anybody else thought, they cared what the residents thought. And so they basically said, go ask the residents, talk to them, ask them how they feel about public spaces, what would they like to see. And as you can see from that slide, we did a tremendous amount of engagement. Over 350 meetings through this resident-led process, and what we learned was there was a gulf of mistrust. Because there's been a legacy of things done to and not with, and things promised and not delivered. And so we were very intentional in going forward that anything we did was going to be resident-led and made sure that their voice was heard. The other 3 values from the national funders were social economic mixing, value creation, how might we, the residents, benefit from our work, and the 4th value is environmental sustainability. All 4 of those values are what drive our work. And again, many of you folks have been partners in this work. So we tested a whole lot of ideas, did a lot of programming. We learned a great phrase from Detroit. Test ideas light, quick. They use the word cheap. I don't like cheap because that implies quality. So we test ideas light, quick, and inexpensive. Because you'll learn from it. You'll iterate. We also told a lot of our government partners, many folks with the city are here with us, Tom Taylor and other folks, if it doesn't work, we'll remove it. And I will tell you that one word, removable, was a game changer. It's like, really? You'll remove it? Now, to be honest with you, this first time I said this publicly, I had no intentions of removing anything. But Tom probably knew that anyway. So did Tia. But when we said we were going to test the idea, and I've got a couple examples of that actually. So programming downtown. Lockery Park. How many people have been to Lockery Park for an event and concert program? How many people go there to have a picnic? Not too many hands, right? It's not a 365-day park. Yeah, Bill, I saw your hand go over there. All right. It's not a 365-day park. It is a great concert, event, and festival site. It has outperformed everybody's expectations. If you ask Dave Lieber, who developed this instrument of creating it, it was an experiment. It's the most successful 20-year experiment ever. But the question is, how might we make this into a 365-day park, where University of Akron students hang out with residents who are now living in downtown Akron? And so, when we asked the residents what they'd like to see, this is what they told us. So just to orient you, this obviously is a drone view. Usually we don't say bird's eye view, but just a drone view looking down the park. To the right is Main Street. To the top is the Civic Theater. You see the Ohio Erie Canal on the west side, and at the bottom is the Russell and Andrews building. First thing you probably notice is a lot of landscaping, a lot of trees, a lot of vegetation. And so this is the view as you come into the park from Main Street. A nice welcoming area that is accessible to everybody. The one thing that we come to acknowledge in our public spaces, specifically in Akron, is we tend to hide our public spaces in plain sight. Lot 3 is 17 feet below grade. So if you're up there on Main Street, you don't even know what's there. I'm really proud of the design of this park that the architect was only 8 steps. So when you talk about accessibility, this is truly an accessible public space. Walkways, that's one way we're going to negotiate the accessibility issue. Beautiful landscape design with flowers and vegetation on both sides of the park. A nice open lawn area. Think of a Kane Park up in Cleveland, that type of experience. We've done the analysis on how many people the newly designed Lot 3 will hold. It will still hold about 3,500 people, about the same number of people. It's going to be a different experience? Absolutely. We think a much higher quality design experience as well. This is now looking to the south, and here, in the next slide you'll see further, but you'll see the world-class design Maynard Performance Pavilion. No more temporary stage, this is a permanent stage. And I got a couple slides to show you actually what's coming out of the ground. And the beauty of the design of the stage is that a year from now, maybe Curtis, or maybe in 2025, AMATS can have its annual meeting in this, I kid you not. Because when this is not being programmed, it'll be open to the public. You all with your offices downtown, or if not, you want to visit, you can actually go up on stage and have your team meet, use the space. The beauty of this is it's actually designed to have 3 different sides to it. You see the front of the stage there for that 3,500 type of audience. You see off to the side here, that can be maybe for a 500 or 1,000 person performance. And you can kind of tell that guy wearing the red shirt, he's doing his own little air guitar scene. He's not in front of the stage, but he's still experiencing the beauty of the space. And then if it's maybe an acoustical guitar, or maybe it's a lecture from the University of Akron, the back side, or the canal side of the Maynard Performance Pavilion can also be utilized. And so that's the beauty of the flexibility of this space. Obviously, there will be ice skating because it's a very popular activity in downtown Akron. And so right now we are working very hard to get a minimum of 1 and possibly 2 ice skating rinks into the park project. Total park project is going to cost $60 million. And we have all the money. We're still working on a couple of pieces. I know Emma's back there. She keep me honest. But we still need to raise about another $1 million. We're really close. This is one of my favorite slides. Obviously, it's a Towpath Trail. But what I really like about this is, if you go down there today, or if you remember Lot 3 Park, going along the towpath, looking at the canal, was not encouraged, quite frankly. Whoever designed it put nice prickly bushes to tell people to stay away, an ugly fence. This obviously is a different experience. And what the beauty of this also, what I like is, it offers a sense of intimacy. There might be something going on the concert stage, but you won't know it. Because similar to the spaces in Central Park, it's very separate, it's away, there's a barrier. And so it's a very peaceful place as well. And of course, this is one of my favorite shots. This is what Lot 3 Park is going to look like a year from now. The project is on budget and it is on schedule. And I'm very grateful to our designers, Owen Studios, our construction manager, Nature Advisory, and our construction team, Kentmore Construction. They've just done a really great job, and we're just going to continue to keep plugging away with this. So this is actually a couple of shots. The one shot you really can't see too well, this is actually some of the construction here of Lot 3, but also what you probably noticed is the Lot 3 backyard. That would be, people remember what actually used to be there? Some people, it was an ugly, not too well maintained parking lot, right, Tom? Now it's a beautiful green space. And that's a temporary location because we had to figure out a way to keep people coming back to downtown Akron. One of the suggestions was do the concerts on the streets. We were not big fans of that because, anytime you shut down the streets, it's disruptive. And so to the city's credit, they invested in this amazing, beautiful backyard space that I actually think will remain even after Lot 3 Park opens a year from now. And I promise you, don't get shots of the Maynard Performance Pavilion. This is actually dated about, I think, 3 weeks ago. It's progressed much more beyond that. And if you do get a chance to go down to downtown Akron, there's a beautiful construction, wrap fencing that show you what the park is going to look like going forward. And now, I'd like to share with you just a couple of brief slides. Summit Lake is an area that's of really great importance to our organization because the Ohio Erie Canal you can actually see. It's right there in the north part. It still goes through Summit Lake. Captain Richard Howe, who built the Ohio Erie Canal, he's the engineer. His home is the home that we restored and where our offices are located. And so there's multiple reasons why Summit Lake is a really important physical location for our organization. But unfortunately, over the years, there's been a legacy of things done to Summit Lake and quite frankly abused Summit Lake. And that's what these slides here actually illustrate. The slide on the left actually shows you Summit Lake before the highway came through, and the slide on the right shows you after the highway came through. And it's a story that is well told across this country. Akron is not unique in any way, shape, or form. It's more just a reckoning of what has happened to this neighborhood. Literally, people's homes were removed, businesses were removed, people were displaced, and in addition to that, the lake has also been, suffered greatly from all this. And so people sometimes are surprised why neighborhoods suffer. We shouldn't be surprised because, quite frankly, we've done it. We as humans. And really, what this slide on the right really illustrates is how Summit Lake is just cut off. It's cut off physically, it's cut off emotionally, psychologically. And so we asked ourselves, how might we change this? This obviously is overgrown vegetation here on the North Shore. It is actually owned by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I'm proud to say that after, I think, Thomas and Helen, I want to say Helen, probably about 60 years, the city of Akron has access to this land. I know the city's been trying to get access for about 60 years. The agreement was signed 2 weeks ago. Another huge accomplishment. And so what we'd like to be able to do is change the narrative. Because once the highway cut off the interstate, and maybe just kind of go back to the canal era, once the canal went out of business, there was a beautiful amusement park at Summit Lake. But unfortunately, it was an amusement park for one group of people, and it was primarily white people. It was a segregated amusement park. And so when the amusement park goes out of business, and then even a sad part of the story, there was a beautiful swimming area. Actually, you could swim in the lake in 1920. 1 year later, the lake was closed to swimming because of all the pollution. Industry basically pumped water out of the lake to power industries, and then they pumped the dirty water back into the lake. There were 2 schools at Summit Lake. Margaret Park School on the northwest side. I'll kind of back up here. The northwest side of Summit Lake. Lincoln School was actually in the neighborhood. It actually had a swimming pool that taught kids how to swim. And so we wonder why a neighborhood suffers. We cut it up, we pollute it, and then we take away the schools. There's no fabric. So how do we reckon with that? Well, you ask the neighborhood residents. And this is where we heard very loud and clear, why should we believe you? You're just another white privileged male, which is true, absolute true statement. Why should we trust you? And actually my response was, you shouldn't trust me. You have no reason to trust me. We haven't had a chance to work together. So what my question was, is will you give us a chance? Will you choose to be vulnerable? And that's a huge step, a leap of faith. Unfortunately, they did. The first thing they said, though, was put a fence around the lake. Because we're afraid that our kids, who you see here in these photographs, are going to drown. And I'll show you a couple of slides a little bit later where you couldn't even see the edge of the lake. But then some of the residents said, you know, we just want a place to sit, talk, and have a grill. And what's really sad about this is when we first started on this journey about 8 years ago, there was one bench at Summit Lake, and it didn't even face the lake. And usually I kind of get that, you know, nervous chuckle. But what does that say about how we care about the lake and about the people? We don't. We don't care. We actually documented with our surveys people driving to Summit Lake, sitting in their car and writing poetry. Isn't that interesting? They're inspired by the space, but they don't have a place to sit. Some people have to pick up those soccer chairs out of their trunks and sit on an asphalt parking lot. That is not equity in public spaces. And we all know communities around Summit County and the region that have beautiful park trails and public spaces, but unfortunately in our black and brown communities that's not the case. And so how might we change that? And so we basically tested a whole bunch of ideas. This is what it looked like before. In the partnership with Summit Metro Parks, this is what the investment was, $40,000 investment. Swings, open up the lake, fishing, create a small pavilion so people can have picnics. Now, I will tell you, people told us not to do these things. They said, don't do it. It won't get taken care of. There has been no vandalism on these assets. And the reason I think it is because we're not doing it to people, we're doing it with people. It's their space. The other thing we want to do is overcome that fear of the water. Now, you'll notice that young lady in the middle there, she's got a smile on her face, but she's holding on to those gums, right? And we do that on purpose, not to scare her, but we have an experienced guy, Todd Clark, in the back of the boat. We have now done over 800 guided canoe trips at Summit Lake, every Tuesday's farmer market. Matter of fact, I would invite any of your all's teams or companies, MS, and these great partners as well. You've done this, you're great at our truck partners. But we have 10 canoes down at Summit Lake, and we have 6 kayaks. If you've not been on Summit Lake, contact me. I will make that arrangement for you. It is amazing. People might be asking themselves, what's the health of the lake? We took Summit Lake to the doctor in 2018 because we hear all the stories. Oh, you stick your hand in the water, your skin's going to peel. The fish can, I kid you not, the fish can have 3 heads. Well, yes, maybe back 25 years ago, and yes, there were things that were done to the lake. But guess what down at Summit Lake? And Mike knows this, Mike T. Decker, because he's a fisherman. Bass, bluegill, catfish, pike. People like T. Decker tell me, shh, don't talk about that. That's my favorite fishing spot. And so, when we did the study in 2018, they said Summit Lake is no different than the Portage Lakes. It's no different than Lake Erie. It's no different than the Pine Lake. Because every body of water in the state of Ohio is compromised at some way. Ohio's an industrial state. There's no pristine waters. Now, you're going to want to wash your hands before you get something to eat? Of course you are. But the water's fine. So if you want a canoe, kayak, paddleboard, come on down. The water is fine. And the other thing we're going to do, I shall go back up here, is we learned this from our sister cities in Philadelphia. How many people have canoes or kayaks at home? Do you have a place to store them? If you're not, see me. I will store it for you for free. Because Pennsylvania does this model of they provide free storage for boats or canoes or kayaks, but that means a local neighborhood resident can borrow that for free. So we're going to do the same model. We're going to have a free canoe or kayak share. And what that speaks to is equity in public spaces. Not everybody can afford a canoe or kayak. Not everybody can afford to rent one. That's the model we're going to do at Summit Lake. Speaking of trails, we got a lot of feedback about why isn't there a trail around Summit Lake? And Teodeki and Tom and many of the folks of Helen and Dylan, you guys know the story very well. It was actually supposed to go around the lake at one time with the Towpath Trail, but then it just did not perform. And so we said, you know, what do you guys think about that? And initially we had a lot of support, but then we also had a lot of skepticism, I'll just say. And actually downright resistance. And I think it was resistance from a couple reasons. Many of you folks who work on trail projects, you know the reasons. It's change. And by the way, if you ask Nancy, my wife at home, how much I like change, I don't. When she moves stuff around at home, it just disrupts me. So change is one of the reasons. The second reason is sometimes people have perceptions about trail users. We all know this. Trail users are sometimes bad people. They're going to steal my porch furniture. They're going to steal my television. They're going to have a picnic in my front yard. And I kid you not, I've heard all those statements. And I've had to look them in the eyes and not laugh and just acknowledge that that's the reality. And by the way, we heard that from some of the residents on the west side of Summit Lake. Because the third thing we heard was, we don't want those people on my side of the lake. And I'm gonna let that sink in. Why are we doing this Akron Civic Commons work? Social economic mixing. We need to spend more time with people that don't look like us. So we said, fine, let's test the idea of a trail. We're doing a lot of iteration here. We're testing ideas. Let's see what happens. We tested for 3 years. Guess how many people's porch furniture got stolen? None. How many televisions got stolen? None. How many picnics happened in people's front yards? None. What we found was, because we do a lot of surveying, is a lot of the residents who actually were opposing it were actually using that trail. And today, that trail, I'm really proud to say, is open. That was the groundbreaking a year ago. Actually, a year ago this October, and we dedicated it just last week, actually. It's a 2.75 mile trail around Summit Lake. It's absolutely beautiful. Kyle Lucas with EDG, they're the designers on this. Again, Kenmore Construction, again, I'm so proud of them. It was on time and under budget. We got money back on that project. The design was amazing. Kyle and his entire team. And in fact, you told me earlier about how you, down there recently, you saw people literally, bicycles doing a circuit multiple times around that trail to try to get the miles in. But, and then the other story I'll share with you that does make me feel good, because as you all know, when you're in the heat of all these meetings, and people are telling you how bad these things are, sometimes you can't even envision what the potential could be. But Lisa Nunn of Let's Go Akron, she has a little market store on the west side of Summit Lake by Kenmore. And if you've not been there, I encourage you to walk on that trail, stop in her little store, get some grape juice, get some jams and jellies. Zolays doesn't have anything on Lisa Nunn, Let's Go Akron. Okay, make sure you stop down there. But she was telling me how a multi-member resident lives in a wheelchair. And that before this trail was built, they couldn't go anywhere in a wheelchair because there's no sidewalks on the west side of Summit Lake. Now that that trail is in, those folks in wheelchairs are now going to be able to go all the way around the lake. And when you talk about accessibility, that's what really speaks to that. So the trail is the appetizer. This is the main event. So just to orient you once again, you see the baseball field here on the right side, you see the Towpath Trail, you see that rendering of the bridge, and by the way, Kyle and Kenmore, the bridge is way better than the rendering. I wanted to have like an arch, it certainly has an arch. But this is what the neighborhood residents would like to see. They'd like to see a bigger pavilion. And that's what you see there off to the left, that maybe can hold 100 people. Again, AMATS can have your annual meeting down there. Be a beautiful view of Summit Lake. You see the canoe kayak here right there in the middle. That also has a small concession area where people can maybe get a cup of coffee, ice cream cone or a sandwich. And then you see a lot of access to the waterfront. You see the pier going out there. You see a dedicated boat launch ramp there to the north. And lots of accessibility down to the waterfront. And this project, we just opened bids yesterday, and the site work actually will be underway this fall. And our plan is to have this also completed by next fall. It might go a little bit into 2025, but as many of you folks know me, I'm going to keep pushing until they tell me it can't be done next fall. That's the new kayak here, and this is the, to me, the beauty shot. You know, we believe because Akron and Summit County are located in the center of the Ohio Erie Canalway. And don't get me wrong, we have many great assets, Summit Metro Park, Towpath National Park, but oftentimes you have to drive to those facilities. This one you do not have to. It connects two neighborhoods. You can walk there, you can bicycle there. And we believe that this will be a destination along the Ohio Erie Canalway. So thank you all very much. You've been an incredible and very attentive audience. I'd be happy to answer any questions you folks may have. Thank you.